We start today with a top priority for parents, and that is, of course, protecting their kids. Being a teen can be tough, but in today's modern world, it seems even harder. In fact, in a recent poll, 69% of parents say it is harder to be a teen today than it was 20 years ago. And nearly half of the teens polled agree with that. Today's teens face all new kinds of challenges, from cyberbullying on social media to the threat of school shootings. Concerns kids didn't have to deal with many years ago. So what to do today? That is the big question. So our deep dive on this topic today is with Dale Bendler. He is the founder of 1.61, a cyber and urban safety company. And if he looks like a big bad dude, it's because he is. He spent a long career in the CIA, but he now works to prepare young people for the real world, which I must say is no small task, obviously, given all the things they have to cope with today. What motivated you to get into this space, Dale?
Thanks for having me, Jim. Young person, teenager safety is super important, not just to parents, but to the larger society. So 37 years at the CIA, where I honed skills to anticipate potential threats, juxtapose that experience on my wife and I raising three teenage boys. And so it was a confluence of those two experiences. And my public service with CIA, and I wanted to keep giving, and so I wanted to share it with a broader audience.
Understood. So I have to tell you, when my daughter went off to college, I thought it would be a bright idea to invite a security expert like yourself over to teach some of her and some of her friends the fine points of being safe. And I thought maybe he was going to teach them a lot of moves, but he didn't. Instead, he was focusing on making them concentrate and be smart up here, which is kind of what you do, isn't it?
That's exactly right, Jim. And good call as you as a parent to bring in a third party to provide some advice. So learning a martial art, it's a really cool thing. But be aware, you're going to have to stay at it, right? Even more extreme than learning a martial art, karate or Brazilian jiu-jitsu might be weapons. We don't think that's necessary. We don't even think martial arts are necessary. You don't want to go down the whole gun route with safety and legal aspects and all the training required. There are 100 different things that young people, teenagers and young adults, can do to avoid trouble in the first place.
Give me a few.
80% of what we do is teaching young people to avoid issues, problems. Only 20% of what we do is, should trouble find you despite your best effort to avoid trouble, we want you to get home. We don't want you to win. We want you to get home.
We want you to live to see another day.
Get home with your family.
Yeah. We're looking at some of these key threats that you identify. And cyberbullying is such a big thing now. And maybe to someone in my generation, Dale, and yours, we can't really relate, because so what if somebody says something about you online? But it's a real thing today, isn't it?
So it's once posted, always posted, and it can really get into a young person's head. So almost all of our instruction starts with cyber. It's the #1 concern for parents, and it should be. Why? School shootings or drink spiking or stalking or road rage, they happen, but probably rare. Where cyber is extant, it's 24/7.
So what do you tell kids to do?
So what key is that relationship with their parents. There has to be a degree of confidence. No parent wants to spy on their kids' electronics and vice versa, but you have to have a degree of confidence, and I would suggest 2 or 3 red flags to share with your kids that maybe somebody's asking for a photograph of when they were at the beach wearing a bathing suit. If that happens, talk to your mom and dad about it. Maybe somebody's asking for money and they seem to be in a hurry, and check with your parents about these issues. So that's a key aspect. You could be a really big, bad Navy SEAL, but if your cyber is sloppy, that big bad Navy SEAL is going to be vulnerable. Same with kids.
Yeah, interesting. You know, I remember when I was 16, many moons ago, I couldn't wait to get in a car and start driving. Now today, kids don't seem to be in a hurry to drive, so that poses some risks when it comes to them getting around transportation. Talk about that.
So let's talk about rideshare, Jim. So first the upside, which is really amazing, and all parents can really appreciate this. at a certain age, we quickly get them that Lyft or Uber app. Why? Drinking and driving.
Sure.
A real issue with teenagers, not just for your teen who may or may not have had a drink, but perhaps their friend who has. We want to get them in an Uber, and we want to get them home. Taking our training, you have to do 5 things wrong. You have to make 5, maybe 6 or 7 mistakes to get into the wrong car and become a victim of a criminal who's posing as a rideshare driver.
Because we've seen that.
And not if you take our training.
Good.
You got to make multiple mistakes to get into the wrong car. We raise 3 boys. They take Uber safely.
Gotcha. So, and some of these things obviously apply to high school kids. When your kids go off to college, then it's a whole another level of concerns that parents have. You know, how late are our kids out? Who are they interacting with? Whole new social setting that they're involved in, especially for young ladies. So what kind of extra precautions do you prescribe for young ladies?
We spend quite a bit of time on this scourge of drink, spiking, roofies, ketamine, even these corner chemists playing with fentanyl, the ubiquitous red Solo cups that are so common, not just on campuses, but music concerts or sporting events.
We're looking at you here, by the way, and you're counseling a young lady. What are you telling her here in this situation?
So in that instance, this is counter stalking. So very important at 1.61. If somebody looks at you or you don't like the way someone looks, you can't call the police in the United States of America. It doesn't work that way. We want you to move to a second location and see if that same person shows up again, and maybe even a third location. If they show up at that third location, separated by time and distance, you probably have a stalking problem. We would also counsel, if somebody bothers you, or you don't like the way they look, or you don't like the way they looked at you, go to that second location. I didn't say go home.
Right.
Because maybe you are being stalked, and now they learned where you live. Go to that second location.
Good advice. Quickly, Dale, what's the most gratifying thing you get out of this?
It's a very interesting question, Jim, but our measures of effectiveness are ambiguous. What do I mean by that? We may never know that we saved a teenager's life because they didn't like the feel of the bar they were in, and taking a sip of that drink, they sat it down. They didn't get into the wrong car. They got into the correct Uber. They weren't being stalked. They didn't cry wolf and call the police. And then they can sleep soundly at night instead of worrying about ghosts.
Yeah, well, you can sleep soundly too, knowing that you're giving great advice and helping prepare people for the real world, and the real world that's changing even as we speak today. So thank you for what you're doing.
It's my pleasure, Jim.
All right, Dale Bendler joining us today.